I like to record these really long videos, so I have no choice but to do it sideways because it always ends up on YouTube. And then I end up cutting it and putting it on social media. Um, but I wanted to share a little bit about my ADHD journey. It's dissolved a lot in the last few years, and now it just seems like there's a lot of energy. That same energy is trying to move through me, but it feels like it's not going through the form of thought anymore. It's going through it's just loose energy in the body, and it feels very uncomfortable, and it can be even painful. Like it feels like almost electrocuting, like. And I think that's the nervous system. It's just like, it's like just too much energy that's trying to come through into the body, and the body can't really like accommodate it the same anymore, maybe. I don't know, I've just grown like way more sensitive to it, I guess. And I just been needing like a lot of rest. Like I tried to go to the gym, and then I overdid it, and so I just was home yesterday. And what really helps me now are the activities that help me focus. So for example, writing is something that helps me focus. So that's what I've been um, doing a lot of, and I've had trouble sleeping. And for the same reason, it just feels like it's just too much energy in my body, and I can't really like feel my stomach where I would like historically always hold tension. But I notice when I write, or like, certain activities, like at the time that it's right for them, right, I can like actually tune back into like my body. And speaking is one of the things that has really helped me as well. Yesterday I actually recorded for the first time, and for the first time in like a few weeks. And I wasn't sure how it would be, but it actually turned out very well. And what's happening is actually, well, the mind is like, the ADHD mind is like, it always wants something. It's like not sure of what to focus on, right? So it focuses on fear, and that's like what's playing all the time. So even now, like if you don't give it something to focus on, it like, it just it's always like trying to find something. And a lot of the times, well, always, like whatever's playing here all the time is just fear. And so I wish I had like a roadmap for this, but this is something that I've like really just discovered alone. Like even in the last few weeks that have been tough, I've just realized, oh, it's just a surplus of energy in my body and in my head, and I just have to really focus it. And so one of the things that has also really helped me is just the sound of my own voice. Over the ear headphones have been amazing. I got these a few weeks ago, and they have really helped me because I will literally write, journal on my computer, like type, and then have these on, play some music that I like. And that's another thing that has helped me a lot, like regulating my nervous system, because that's what all this has been, right? It's a dysregulated nervous system that then, like, tries like to find something to focus on out of fear. It's just trying to play like all this, this fearful stuff, and like what it has to be like mindful or watch out, for. And a lot of it is just all of it really is just the programming that probably, was rooted in my childhood and isn't even relevant anymore. um, but it's the brain, it's the brain and the body, and trying to come out of it requires time and patience. And so really, I've really just been taking it slowly, and just one moment at a time. I mean, today I'm home, and I don't know, I might go for a walk. And really what I realize is, whatever, before I do anything, before I like even think of going to the gym, or you know think of even drinking water in the morning, like, of course, like forget like showering and brushing my teeth, like the first thing that I have to do in the morning is really regulate my nervous system, because it affects everything, it changes everything. And there have been like some, like, like almost sharp, like nerve sensations. It just, I feel like it's just like when those same like thoughts try to come, like that same energy tries to move through the body, and it's like the body isn't really like accommodating it anymore. But what really helps is focusing. And it's been about like 3 weeks maybe since I recorded the video, and what I'm noticing now is that even when I record, like when I speak, it's like it's way more quiet. And it's not just the over the ear headphones, I don't think so. It's like it's like it's just really, really silent. And that's probably what it is without the that's probably what it is without the ADHD, right? It's just dead silent, which can be very new and scary, right? Just it's just new, so it is scary. And all of this gradually just takes time, right, for the nervous system and for the body to adjust, like everything does. And so I've just really been taking it easy and taking it slow. And I learned not to take it too hard at the gym because there's so much stuff that I love doing when it comes to moving my body, like dance and lifting. And lifting is something that I, was not able to do after I had COVID a little over a year ago. My my nervous system was just it was still in that state almost from like when I was really, really weak, and it wasn't letting me like really lift up. Like my nervous system had just had to be in a very good place for me to go to the gym and have a workout session, and that's been like once or twice, in the last like multiple attempts that I've had in like the last over a year. Um, and then dance has really helped too, but the dance can't be like really high cardio. It has to be me being able to focus. So like a lot of the time it's like just me in my own head, like listening to headphones and like, moving my body, and it's not like high impact. Um, but but yeah, so for that reason I had to, I sort of had to forego Zumba for a bit, and I tried it, I took it up again in the last few weeks, and it, I was like pushing through it, but just yesterday I had, or a day before yesterday I had a, not a good time. I like left the class halfway and I wasn't feeling good. So I've realized like, okay, I'm just gonna stay away, from like the really high impact things, and really I really have to take it just very, very easy. And when I need to move, I think I'll know that. What has helped me a lot is running. The times that I've done it, I think running has been really good for me. So I will stick to that. And I know that so many of you watching this may relate or may resonate if your ADHD has dissolved a lot. And I don't know if anybody, if there are any like specialist therapists or doctors that know about this, or mainly that just deal in the realm of actually having ADHD, and not so much the actual like dissolution of it, the dissolving of it. So I don't know. But I do know, and I believe ADHD is like a lifelong, condition. And that even meds, right, like, at the very best, I believe, can manage it. Although I've never been on any, so I can't really speak from any kind of experience. Just from maybe what I've heard from other people, from just like less than a handful. So I'm not quite sure. But just something happened to me in the last few years where I was sitting on my balcony in my apartment in Florida. This was at the beginning of the pandemic, and I found myself alone, and my mental suffering had really reached like a peak, and nothing I was doing, like the same activities that I had built my day around, the really healthy ones, the really great ones that I enjoyed and that were managing my ADHD, they weren't working anymore. So I found myself just meditating on the balcony. And my initial attempt was really just to focus my attention. And that's really why I was meditating. It was just to focus. And I felt surprisingly really good after like three hours, and then I would come in, shower, maybe cook something and eat, and then I would kind of continue like the same, like watching videos about like that soothe me. And there was somebody that I was watching at that time. It was like about for like 2 years, and his name was Muji, and he would talk a lot about like well, truth and what is truth, and the dissolution of the ego. And I don't know if I knew it at that time, but I realize now that ADHD really is the ego. It's just the mind, and it's all the same thing. And maybe I can see how other people really experience the mind as in all these different manifestations, like OCD, PTSD. Like these are just like general maybe categories of how we've discovered like the mind can manifest. And really what it's doing is it's coping with a a hard reality, right? A harsh reality of life. That's what it's doing, right? OCD, anxiety, all of these things are just like, it's trying to like relay some sort of truth about life that can be and is often very difficult for us to accept or feel. And so the mental suffering, continues. And I remember after my dad died, I was about 11. I just turned 11 actually. And within like the next few years, I had developed a dark depression, it seemed like. And of course, like as I was going through any of like my conditions, I didn't know it. It's only like in the last few years when I came out of them, that I realized, that I kind of had the clarity. I was like, I think that was, PTSD. I think that was like, OCD. At the time, maybe I had like some idea, like as I got older, I developed OCD and even PTSD. I had the inkling, but when I had depression, I don't know that I knew what it was. I was really young. And so at least by the time I was 15, I had it. And a lot of it was really just connected to the idea that my mom would change after my dad died. But her behavior just seemed that she would actually be happy. That was my dream for like every day for like, 10 years. And it never happened. And I just, I didn't realize at the time. It was only after like 10 years later when I started coming out of depression that I had the epiphany that, or I had the realization that my emotions were tied to hers, and I had no idea. And this sort of like codependency, right? Like it makes sense to me now because my mom is very much, and her whole life has been very much severed from her emotion, just from disconnected from herself, like a fundamental disconnection from herself. And so it makes sense that that as a child, right, I had to take on that burden for myself, and it really led to like massive distortion in my life, because this was the pattern that I carried in all of my relationships. I carried with my partner, like I was taking on everyone's emotional burden, and it was only the last few years, thankfully, that I really got the chance to to heal. And I really think that was God's like blessing to me. And it's been really, really difficult. I think the more that I've gone through the journey, I'm now 4 years in, and a lot of like the mental, emotional healing has been done. But but now it just seems like the body is adjusting, and this like sort of physical stuff, like in the last year, has been very, very in the last 2 years, right? And especially in the last year, has been tremendously difficult and disorienting. It's just like the body has to adjust, and there's a lot of dizziness and just like I don't know, like all these things that I can't really explain. But I am ultimately grateful at the end of the day, and I do know that a lot of it just disappears when I focus. So here I am focusing, and I've also been able to uncover a lot of power, especially with the physical suffering in my life. Just a lot of joy in it, and joy as it's happening, right? Yes, joy in it, and then also like strength. It's almost like I'm a stronger human being for it. And that's having like so much like emotional suffering my entire life, and mental suffering, to now being able to find joy in physical suffering, and having physical suffering make me a lot stronger, which really came later for me. And maybe everything really is intentional. It's just, how much you can handle, because I often think that, and probably know like this, whatever is happening in my life right now, like the disorientation and, how scary it can be. I don't think I could have experienced this like earlier in my life. And so it's a really beautiful thing. It's almost like life showing me it's just the next phase of what's happening. And really in life, if you're doing it right, I think the challenges get harder. Um, and I think all in all, like the journey of my mental suffering has really allowed me to become so intimate with the mind and how it operates. And because of like this intimacy, I understand it so well. And again, I can see like having like 5 mental conditions already, and being able to come out of them, and say like, like I'm actually like free of them so much. um to be able to say that is like really, really, it's a huge blessing, and it really gives me the opportunity to help others, through them. Because I think experiences really is the most powerful thing that we have. And I think, for, even somebody who has learned about it, or is certified in, teaching it, or, helping people with it, I think ultimately when you have the experience of something, and maybe you've healed it or you've come out of it, you're better able to help somebody else. And that's just my theory. I mean, I always, will prefer the experience over somebody learning about something, intellectually. I think anyway. Um, and so it's really interesting when I was actually going through my healing journey that I could actually, sort of understand how all mental disorder is, number one, it's a coping with reality, and number two, it's just it's all the same mind. It's all the one ego, right? And the ego is just fear. And what happens is the ego is just, it's it's one job, right, is really just, it's trying to protect you. So what it does is like it creates an entire, movie reel, right, highlight reel of everything, and plays it maybe nonstop in your head, right? And what can accompany that movie is, you know sensation in the body, emotions, right? Many times there's a story that keeps playing over and over again. Or if you sit a little bit with your thoughts, you'll be able to tell, oh, there's actually like a storyteller. There's a narrator here with a very specific flavor. And she likes to tell stories in a very specific manner. It's like she's seeing through a certain lens, and you kind of get a taste for your storyteller, right? And that's really when you become intimate, and you're like, oh, well, this thought or this story, like, belongs to, that narrator, or that thought or story belongs to that sort of, that other narrator. And you can find like maybe 4 or 5 different kinds of like storytellers in your head, right? That are sort of operating, and what they're doing is actually these sort of storytellers are operating in the ways that maybe you have coped with the pain in your life. So they could be very like, healthy ways, right? They could be like, for example, if you love to write, right? Or let's say you talk to your friends a lot, like therapeutically, or you talk to a therapist therapeutically, right? This sort of storyteller is like kind of continuing that, it's speaking in that voice all the time, and it's just playing here all the time. And what's interesting is that you can have multiple, like, of these storytellers, right? But if you kind of sit with them, you maybe can see how they're all kind of connected to, like, the kind of big flavor of your mind. And descending into this, I think Carl Jung, you know sort of maybe explored this, in his life. I'm not quite sure, in his experience, um, but it's something that maybe many people don't actually do, because well, the times that we're in today, people usually distract themselves more than actually descend or actually spend time with their mind. But the way that it started for me was just literally, I started meditating, so there was just a lot of mental suffering, and then I just kept meditating until, what that started looking like was, like a lot of these raw stories coming up, and sitting with them and healing, like feeling their pain, and, doing that over and over again until, like, started healing those stories. And I noticed my personality started changing, my behavior started changing. This was like, after two years, 2 years of this work, and 2 years of just sitting. And then when I found myself like briefly around people again in the third year, I realized my personality, my behavior had changed a lot. I couldn't really, like, make like a distinction about my personality, but I could tell like my behavior, like I wasn't behaving in the ways that I used to. I wasn't explaining as much, and those thoughts of like explaining just kept playing here, but they weren't coming out of my mouth. So it was really interesting. It was like I was more present, and I wasn't chasing as much. I let a lot of relationships go, beginning that third year, because right before I'd briefly been around people again. My family had actually come back from overseas, my partner and his mom and dad. And right before that, I had done like a lot of healing work to let go of just a lot of like all of them emotionally, all of my own family emotionally, every relationship that I had that had sort of like an attachment. I had done like the work to let go and to heal. And so when I was around people again, I wasn't the same person again. And I could really see their stuff for the first time. I could see like their trauma that I had sort of like in the past made about me, and had like sort of felt been guilty about myself. Like I had sort of took that on as like something that was wrong with me. And I think that was the theme of my life. I was literally taking other people's stuff, taking on their emotional burdens, and taking on their behavior towards me as something that was wrong with me. And this is the pattern that really started with my mother. And it's very like it brings up, and it can bring up a lot of like rage, just the feeling of that, because this is, but at the end of the day it is her unconsciousness, but it doesn't change the fact that it's extremely, it's severely messed up, that this could be the case, that I really, because her behavior was so, it was so horrible, that I really made, as a child, that's what you do. You make instead of thinking that the world is bad or somebody is bad, right? You make it about you. And if I could tell you how much self-doubt and crippling self-doubt and crippling anxiety, like literally I wasn't able to function in my life. I wasn't able to do anything. I didn't believe in myself at all. And really, that why that was because I just had so much mental suffering. It wasn't like, oh, I just had a casual thought, like I don't believe in myself. Actually, no, like the ADHD was like, the mental suffering was playing here 24/7. It was playing like all the time. And for for many years, right? And maybe all my life up until like my healing during the pandemic, right? My awakening and whole eco dissolution, all my life, maybe, like it was just about seeking relief, because I had that degree of mental suffering. And I actually didn't know it at the time, because, well, that's all I knew. So it's not like I had anything to compare it to. But now when I look back, I realize it was just, it was extraordinary mental suffering. And I had it for, much of almost all my life. And ADHD really is a dysregulated nervous system. And I remember when my family tells me, my mom tells me that I was a very difficult baby to soothe. But she doesn't say it in those words. And really, my theory is that because my mom was disconnected from herself, she wasn't able to soothe me. And so I stayed a dysregulated human being, right? From baby to child to adolescent to teenager, I remained dysregulated. And the way that, my attempt to regulate it was just my mind, right? It was my ADHD. It was like, thought. And this is really like, this reality is like even when I think about it, it can be a very difficult one to swallow, because there's something in me that doesn't believe it. Like, I can't believe that I've lived this life, that it's just been so tremendously filled with suffering. But there are really beautiful things about my ADHD, and I can't really say it's made my life better or worse. It's just made my life what it is. And one of them is my capacity to intellectualize intellectualize my understanding, and share them in the form of and share my thoughts, and sort of invite a self-awareness to like every conversation that I have, and in my coaching, or in in my conversations with other people that really come from a deeper place, right? There's always this sort of like theme of self-awareness. It always, like, it's just, I mean, I've developed so much because of the ADHD, which is really just constant suffering. Like, it kind of forces you to like, right, if you're constantly having like negative thoughts and just a lot of suffering here, you're going to try and make sense of it. You're going to try and understand. For me, a lot of that was just human behavior, because again, my mom, right? So it was always like, thinking about other people and their behavior, thinking about me and my behavior. And so I came to understand so much about human behavior, that literally, I think, I don't know if like therapists or psychologists like really, like somebody trained really goes to this degree even in their training, because it's literally the experience of my entire life. In every single moment that I've processed like millions of, stimuli, like, with ADHD, your mind is constantly running. Um, and so one of the gifts is really the ability to intellectualize, my thoughts, and really a deep and a vast self-awareness and understanding of human behavior, which I've had to integrate in the last few years and really sit with, because it was just playing here. And the more I would integrate it, the more it would sort of like, settle in my body, and the more like, my behavior would actually change from it as a result, and I would suffer less because it was just something that became part of me. Another thing really is the ability to feel deeply. And I think I had that as a child. I remember, I don't know, I think I always had that, but I don't know when my ADHD started. It could have been when I was like it could have been when I was a baby, could have been when I was a very young child. But I remember being like 6 or 8 years old, and having like a powerful like relationship and intuition, like a relationship with myself, and an intuition in here, which was really, really profound. And so, so my ability to feel deeply, and extraordinary empathy, which is, can be very difficult. The more that I've healed and I've seen, oh, okay, like this capacity to feel causes me to have to sit down sometimes, and I've been, I guess, like just hearing a lot about like, neurodivergent people and how they are just more porous to the world, as in like, more open, without even, intentionally being that way. And so maybe sometimes I think like maybe everyone is this way, but most of us have maybe just figured out, or just like these coping mechanisms are in place, right? Like the mind and conditioning and things like that. It's possible. And neurodivergent people can also maybe have more suffering than other people, or maybe that's at least the case with ADHD. I'm not sure. But for some reason or another, like the ADHD occurs where it's like just like a constant, it's an active mind, right? And I read something the other day that was saying like, oh, it's actually not overthinking, it's just an active mind. And what's really amazing is that you have to, in coming out of it, I realized I actually have to give my mind something to focus on, like every split second. Like I can't, because my tendency is to not focus. So when I come out of that, it could be like I feel like a sharp pain, like, in my thumb or in my body. And so I definitely, the transition has been very, very difficult. But I'm just really trying to do my best to rest. And it's been pretty crazy. And I just took this off because one thing that helps me is really the sound of my own voice. And I really love to sing, but I also notice that when I speak, it's like my voice soothes my nervous system. And so that's another thing that might be helpful to those of you who are sort of on this journey. And I can't be the only one, right? There's got to be other people that are, dissolving their ADHD. But just rest and like focusing, right? When you need to focus, you'll know because your energy is going crazy, right? And then regulating your nervous system. So breathing, if that helps you. My nervous system, it doesn't help my nervous system like most of the time. What actually helps is really just focusing my energy and doing something that allows me to focus, that helps me focus, whatever that is, for you, whatever your brain likes. So, and then when you need to go for a walk, or dancing has really helped me, just like low impact dancing. And I think when you need to, and running has helped me a lot as well. And I feel like when you need to go for a walk, walking can help as well. It's like when you need to move your body, you'll sort of like figure that out. And you can experiment, right? You can experiment with like doing things that help you focus, and then moving your body. What I found in my experience is that actually it's best for me to regulate my nervous system, to actually focus my energy, right? Or to somehow like focus it or like use it, because it's there's so much in my body that's coming, so I have to use it. And the way that I use it is by writing or by speaking. by creating content, right? Like, you know, editing my videos, watching my videos again and again. That's something that my brain really likes, right? It is very, very interested in like my own content. I noticed like it could be really hard for me to pay attention to like anything else, but it doesn't have so much, it has very little issues. It's very good at actually paying attention to my own videos. So that's something that I found, like whatever just like works for you, like you're gonna experiment and then figure it out. And I'm here if there's any way that I can, you know, help you, just, you know, leave a comment, and you know, we'll figure it out together. We'll try to because I've been alone in this mostly, and like alone in all of it. I have no idea what I'm doing, but I have been going through it for several months already, and like even the symptoms of like disorientation and like um, you know, kind of like the surplus of energy in the body that now we have to do something with. And it's a really good thing in a way, because it's almost like if you've gone through a period of like dissolving and healing, that now what's happening is that you're sort of clear enough, right, to then actually your mind is clear enough, but your body still has like maybe a lot of energy. And so what you have to do is actually just use it and exercise it and give it like an outlet, you know, and everything will be okay. And I just want you to know that that you're not alone, and that literally every moment you're being guided. You're gonna figure it out, right? You just take things like one moment at a time, one step at a time, and just take it easy, and just rest, right? All the time, rest if you have to, right? Whatever, rest whenever it feels good to. Like experiment with resting. If resting doesn't feel good, then move on to like some activity that helps you focus. And if you know that's not helping you so much, then dance a little bit or move your body in like a low impact way, right? Like walk, or if that helps you, or run. And I found like even like a jog like actually helps me sometimes more than actually walking. Something about like the energy, like it's almost like the bouncing or the hopping like, you know, helps to you know, release it. So I hope that was helpful to you guys, and I love you so much. God bless you.